So we do ask that while the presentation is going on that you keep your microphone muted. You're more than welcome to unmute yourself and ask questions if you feel comfortable. If you do not wish to be recorded, feel free to turn off your camera at any time. I will be keeping an eye on the chat and relaying any questions to Amy if you don't feel comfortable asking the question yourself. And take it away, Amy.
Great, thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me here today. It's always great to present for the folks at PARO. So again, my name is Amy Ongaro. I'm from the Thunder Bay Public Library. I'm one of the Community Hub librarians, and I oversee relationships, which means I do like partnerships with businesses and organizations like PARO. And I also do one-on-one market research help with some of the tools we have available to us at the public library. Yeah, and like she said a minute ago, if you have any questions at any point, feel free to ask, come off mute and ask, or put them in the chat. All right, so after this workshop, you'll have learned about the market research services available to you from the public library, and then gain a basic understanding of how to navigate them. And then you'll also gain confidence in conducting market research for your business and know where to start looking for help. So just before we get into the main presentation, how many of you have actually done market research before? You can either share in the chat, raise your hand, either the real one or the virtual one. I just want to get a sense for who's done a bit of research before and like the knowledge base of things here. All right, it looks like nobody's had market research experience, so you've come to the right place then. So can anyone tell me, even if you haven't done it, what is market research? You guys obviously set up, like registered for this presentation for a reason. So would you be able to tell me what you think market research is? There's no wrong answers.
I used to have a friend in the library when I started my first business in '92, and he showed me resources that were not on the shelf and that I would not have known about. And he was so instrumental to helping me grow that business. But that was over 25 years ago, and I've started a new business. So I'm looking to find out what I don't know and how I can get to those hidden resources.
Yeah, that's the right question to ask. What do I don't know is always a great place to start any sort of research. So to oversimplify what market research actually is, it's who do you sell to and who are your competitors? Those are the two main questions you're asking when you're doing market research, if you like really simplify things to its root. So once you have those two questions answered, you can then get more specific. So the two type of consumers you're often dealing with are people or other businesses. So if I was a coffee bean roaster, I could either sell directly to customers for them to pick it up at like different stores in town, or like have a storefront myself and I'd be selling directly to people, or I could sell to other businesses. So I can partner with local coffee shops and have my roasted coffee beans there, those sorts of things. And once you figure out who, like which of those two categories counts as part of your distraction in the back, I'm in office today. Once you figure out which of these two segments, it could be one, could be both, your business would fall into, you can then get more specific. So obviously with people, you can go to age, income, spending habits, and you can find all of this kind of information with the tools we're going to go over later in the presentation. And then business and industry, so you're either selling to these people or they're your direct competition. So there's a way to figure out their revenues and guesstimates of their expenditures, and then you can find products and services from their websites. It's always very valuable to just, if I'm coffee bean roaster in Thunder Bay, I can look up other coffee bean roasters in Thunder Bay and just get a sense of what their price points are just from looking at their website. So that is starting your market research. And I'll check the chat to see stuff. Oh yeah, so people have done lots of market research, but not through the library. Yeah, and if anyone wants a copy of the presentation, email communications@paro.ca and I'll be able to set you up there. All right, so Then once you figure out the two big categories you will be selling to, you can break it down into even smaller, more granular questions. So let's say I'm a small independent coffee company and I think my target market is 24 to 35-year-olds. That's something we can find out through the tools we'll have today. And then also, because most of the people here today are from Thunder Bay, so we can figure out where the money and income distribution is within town. So what areas on average make the most money, things like that. And then how many coffee shops are in Thunder Bay? If I want to sell to the coffee shops, how many coffee shops could be potential customers for me? Does anybody have any questions before we move on? All right, so getting started with our research. So where are some of the places you can find information? So obviously there's Google. Any librarian with their beans will tell you that's a great place to start looking for information. So like the hardest part though about doing any kind of research is asking the right question, right? So that's the tricky thing about Google. If you just type in coffee bean roasters, you'll get millions of results, right? But if you do in Thunder Bay or in Ontario, you'll get more helpful results for you in particular to compare other businesses in town. But for the folks who are in Thunder Bay, there are really great organizations in town like the PARO Center. There's also the CDC, and these are all organizations that are here specifically to help small businesses in Northwestern Ontario thrive. So another one is Thunder Bay Ventures, obviously the Chamber of Commerce. I'm sure in Toronto and other cities across Ontario, they all have some sort of Chamber of Commerce, and they have great reports about small businesses and trying to help small businesses succeed in their industry. And then if you're looking for city-specific statistics and reports, it could be beneficial to just check out what the city website has. So obviously there's the City of Thunder Bay, City of Toronto. We'll have great information in terms of like housing, things like that, that could help give you some insight depending on what your business is. And then if you want very specific information about like types of people or like health outcomes, if you're starting like chiropractic practices or any sort of physio, yoga type thing, Statistics Canada is a great place to go because they do really great reporting on different aspects of health, education, as well as income through the census. And then obviously your public library is a great place to start for access not only to databases, but also other staff members, especially for you folks in other cities who won't have access to our resources necessarily. They will have access to similar resources, if not the exact same one through your library card. Then there's one big place of information, like one huge, enormous, very valuable resource, and that's obviously you. So any of you who have been in business before, have worked in this like the industry you've started your business in before, you already have a lot of knowledge to get started on market research. So this could be anything from businesses you used to run, you might have sales records from, or even businesses you used to work at, you might have an idea of the trends in the market and things like that. So don't underestimate the resources you already have available to you. And we'll just go over the types of data and information you already have. So this is might be a review for some of you who've done a lot of market research before, but there's two types of data. There's qualitative data, which is things like customer feedback, comments on social media, any sort of networking you've done at trade shows to get sort of like an overview of trends in the industry you're in, or quantitative data. So that's things like hard sale numbers, different business expenses that you've had in the past, and any demographic data on your customer base. And then just for some starting points, while you're generating like what questions you specifically want to get out of your market research, definitely check the websites and social media of businesses in the same industry as you. So if you're a coffee shop, look at websites for the coffee shops and their social media as well, just get an idea of what their services are. And then even your own social media can be really helpful. There's a lot of passive market research you can do just on your Instagram story. I don't know if you guys have seen, you'll be going through your stories and then a small business or a small artisan will be like, oh, tell me which of these two options you like better, and they'll have a this or that thing. So you can just hit it on the poll. That poll data, if it's like 70% is, I don't know, blue package of coffee beans versus 30% for the red package, that's giving really important like marketing, advertising information to me if I was posting on Instagram like that. I'd obviously go with the 70% packaging that people like better, right? So there are things you can do on Instagram stories specifically through polling and questions just to get an idea of what your customers would like. And it's also a great way to connect directly with your customers. There's also professional organizations. So people in Ontario who are librarians are usually go to this thing called the Ontario Library Conference. It's the OLA, so it's done by the Ontario Library Association. So these are places where you buy like some sort of yearly membership, and they usually have conferences and stuff. So it depends on your industry whether or not there's something like that available to you. But any sort of like conferences or things like that, workshops you can do that are very specific to your industry will give you a really good idea of trends in that industry, especially coming out of COVID, like we are right now. There's going to be some big changes in those industries, and it'll be very valuable for you to go to any sort of workshop specific to your industry. And then again, any records you already have. There have been instances where I've been helping people one-on-one and just talking. They've like said, oh yeah, I used to work at a similar type of place. And it's like, oh, what do you know from when you were working in that other role or running that other business? So definitely draw upon any other knowledge, even if it's not directly related to the industry you're in now. Okay, any other questions before we go on to this next question? Am I talking too fast? Anything like that? All right. Okay, so this first research section will go into how we find information out about people. So this is if you're selling directly to customers, where you can go for information. So the first one is Statistics Canada. Has anyone here ever used StatsCan before? Some like maybe sort of, yeah. A lot of people have very strong opinions on StatsCan. Their website is like so confusing and overwhelming to look at, and I've used it a lot too, and it's like still overwhelming. So obviously because it's national data collection, and they run the census. Fortunately, right now we still only have access to the 2016 census. They did one for 2021. You might remember, but they won't be releasing that data until next year, and they have like a rollout plan you can go see on their website for when that information will be released. So unfortunately, we're still using 2016 data, but they also do really great surveys for things like health, labor, and education. In other areas where they'll just survey Canadians to get a sense of like quality of life and things like that. And then there's other socioeconomic databases they have. But the most important part of this whole slide is where to get help from StatsCan. So like sometimes you don't even know what StatsCan doesn't help. Like I have a hard time finding my way through StatsCan. So there is this 1-800 number here where you can call and you'll get through to an actual person at StatsCan and just be like, hey, I'm trying to set up this kind of business. I need this information. Do you have it? Yes or no? And the other thing to keep in mind with StatsCan is they have a lot of information, but some of it is only available to like citizens at a fee. So you'll have to pay some amount of money to get access to that data, or it's not available to the public at all because the government thinks it's too high security. I'm just going to check the chat really quick. Oh, trying to get census data from the 60s, 70s, and 80s in Northern Ontario. Yeah, so if you're trying to get that far back for data, definitely try calling this 1-800 number and talking directly to StatsCan for help, because it might not be, like they may have archived that information. I'm not sure how StatsCan keeps all of like that far back for data. All right, and the other great tool you have available to you is actually doing a market research survey. So this is kind of like what I was saying about Instagram stories. You can like directly ask a specific question with like a yes or no answer, or that sort of thing. So if I was again, going back to like being a coffee roaster, if I had a storefront, I was selling coffee beans, and I asked the Instagram following I've built up already, would you like us to sell like bakery items along with our coffee beans, and have a little storefront, and then you can have a yes, no on Instagram and get that feedback really easy from people who are already invested in your business. But you can also do it in a more formal way. So I don't know if you've ever gone to like big box stores like Canadian Tire or something. They'll sometimes circle the bottom of your seat and go, fill out the survey for a chance to win a gift card or this amount of money or something like that. That's them trying to get you to do a market research survey. So this allows you for the opportunity to ask what you don't know about. And you can also do it as many times as you want. So as your business grows and changes, so will your customer base. So if you do one this year, you can do one again next year, or even 2 or 3 years from now. Or if as things open, like in 3 months, 6 months, you could be living in a whole different lockdown situation. So you can do another one just to see what your customers are comfortable with or they want to get out and do as things reopen. And these are a really powerful way to fill in the gaps that are left out of the formal databases and resources, just because they are limited into like what they're allowed to collect. Like a StatsCan can't tell you people's opinions about coffee. Like, do they like the acid coffee, or, do they drink it just black? Do they want more espresso coffee, right? So that's where you can get those kind of answers. Yeah, so any questions about this section before we go on? All right. Oh, and if you do a market research survey, make sure you format the questions in a way where you're not actually asking 2 questions at the same time. Like if you want a yes or no answer, make sure you only have 1 question in it. So like, yeah, just make sure you're only asking 1 question and break it up into 2 if you think it might be 2, like as long as it makes sense, because otherwise that will skew your results big time. All right, so in the second part, we'll go over resources to find information about, like specifically about other businesses in your industry. So the first database we'll go over today is the Info Canada database that we have available at the Thunder Bay Public Library. So for you folks who are out of Thunder Bay, you'll definitely have to check with your public library to see if they have access to it. So this database gives you business demographic data. Within Canada, there's around 2.1 million businesses indexed within this website. So they get their information from different annual reports from businesses, and then white pages, yellow pages, utilities, and then they verify these information. They update it once a year, and it allows you to search by company name, geography, keywords, business sizes. If for those of you in Thunder Bay, you can use it connected to the library Wi-Fi or on one of our computers once we're reopened, or you can use it with remote access with your Thunder Bay Public Library card number and a PIN number. And this one isn't quite as up to date. It doesn't update as fast as some of the other ones we'll go over later in the presentation, but I'll just give you a quick tutorial on this one. Sorry, it's taking a little while to load today. Okay, so here's the main Thunder Bay Public Library website. Get for database, click this red research button in the main menu, and then this side menu will come up and you hit research at the top again. And it'll bring us to the virtual collection page where you'll just hit this header image here. Usually if you're at home, this is when it'll prompt you to put your library PIN number, or sorry, your library card number and PIN into it to get to this list. But since I'm at the library today working in the office, it automatically went there because I'm hooked up to our Wi-Fi. So if we go down, everything's in alphabetical order. We find the database we're looking for. We're looking for Info Canada, and it'll bring us to the providers page. So we'll look at the Canadian Business Database and click Start Search here. So you can do a quick search if there's a specific company you're interested in looking for, or what I like to do often is use the advanced search function. So here you can limit it by like different provinces or cities. So I'll click on city, I'll select the province of Ontario, then type in Thunder Bay. And if you see this box in the corner, you can click the blue update count, and it took the 2.1 million to 7,700 because we've limited it to Thunder Bay. So that's how many businesses in Thunder Bay they have information on. Then we can also limit it more. So let's say limit number of employees, and we'll go businesses between like less than 20, businesses with less than 20 employees, and then update count again. So that's 6,000. So then we can also limit it more by keyword. So you can either use business code you can get, or you can just do keyword, which is nice in this one. So we're going with my coffee roasting example. You type in coffee shop. Sorry, it's being super slow today. And they'll have exact matches for you. So you go coffee shop, maybe bakers, and espresso bars. So those are the ones I'm interested in seeing. Once you click on them, they go into the selected section, and we'll just update our count again, and we're down to 53. So we'll hit this green view results button, and it'll bring up all the coffee shops within Thunder Bay that have less than 20 employees. So the first one, so the interesting thing about this is like sometimes delis will come up because they'll sell coffee beans or something. So they do fall under this category. But the first one I see that's the actual coffee house is Calico Coffee House in Thunder Bay. So once you click on that business, they'll have the basic contact information. You can get an idea of what the codes are that their business falls under. So that's helpful for when you're searching in databases. You can copy and paste one of these codes into like a note and then the description of that code. So it'll be easier for you to find in other databases and get to know those codes way faster. There's things like the year it first appeared in the database, not always the same as the year that the company actually started. And then they'll give you information like the location sales volume, the number of employees, and then whether it's single location or it's like a corporate place, and because it's a small business. Like if this was Starbucks, we'd have it'd probably still say not available because it's not like Starbucks Canada would give us all this information. But if it's like a smaller business with like 2 or 3 locations, it might have a different number here than the one here, and this is just specific to location. It has a management directory, so you can know who the owners are. And then this is also always interesting to see. So these are like estimates from different like businesses in the same industry and of the same size of what they spend on different parts of their budgets. So things like advertising, accounting, and payroll tools, things like that. And then you can also see your nearby businesses. So to keep going with the example, this is basically everything on Bay Street next door to Calico Coffee House. And the really handy part about this database is this competitors report. So which are the other coffee shops that are similar in size to Calico's? So another one is Seattle Coffee House. So we can click right on that and go to the list. Does that make sense to everybody? Does anyone have any questions?
We do have a question in the chat.
All right, yeah.
What if we're looking for more kind of yeah, it was a direct message to me, so don't worry, I got you.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're looking for a more broad kind of search. So if geographic location is not important, would we still be using like the Thunder Bay Public Library database or Stat Canada? It's because, like I said, they're looking for more of a broad. It's multiple areas like school boards, prison, HR departments, entrepreneurs, and geography is not really a real constriction.
Okay, yeah. We can just do a search in this database and take off the limiter for location. So if you wanted to see businesses of a certain size across Canada, you could definitely do that in here. But one of our databases we'll go through later might be more helpful for that. Before we move on from this one, though, the last thing I want to point out to everybody is that you can export the data here and like download it. So you can hit download, and then you can just get in an Excel sheet. There'll be a big chart of all the different headings we saw in the last one, listed by the company, so you can analyze it all at once and compare them, which is super handy. Yeah, and then in terms of like doing a new search, if they're just looking at a specific industry, you could use the keyword search and then not change the location, if that makes sense. So if we go something like coffee shops again, and then update count, see we went from like 2 million to like 11,000-ish, and then you can hit view results again, and we'll have all of the coffee shops in Canada under that one business code. So I hope that's helpful to the person who asked that question. But we'll go through now to our next slide. Can everybody see the slideshow again? Perfect. All right. All right, so another database, we won't go through this one today, but just more for your information. So if you're looking at industry-wide trends, we have this CPIQ database available to us. So this has like 1,500 Canadian publications and media sources, but specifically like business magazines, different trade publications, and like different very specific newspapers, magazines, and books. So if you're a librarian, you want to look at like the library journal or something like that, you could find something specific to your industry within this database, and it'll give you more of that overall trends in that industry there. All right. So another one that may be helpful only to the people in Thunderbase. So if you're looking at setting up a storefront, the library has this database called Gateway to Northwestern Ontario History. So we have a huge collection of like photographs from the 1850s to present. We've indexed all of the newspapers from the mid-90s to the present. So this is super helpful if you want to know specifically things about Thunder Bay. So if you're setting up a storefront, you're trying to buy a place or rent a place even, you can like look up the building's name. So you know how there's like the old Eaton's building in Thunder Bay, that's what it's known by. So you can like look up that building in this database and get a sense of what it used to look like before you decide to go set up as part of the market in there, or any of the other buildings. Like there's a lot of buildings in town that are like specifically named something, so you can search by that building name, get an idea of what used to be there, and God forbid anything ever bad happened there, but it's helpful when you're searching like that. All right, so this third part is specifically about finding information about people and businesses in the industry.
Just before you go on, Amy, we have a question.
Yes.
So one of our ladies are on the website, but she doesn't see anywhere where she can set up an account. Or is she able to access online through the library only? Or
yeah, so if you want to get online access to the Thunder Bay Public Library, but you're out of town, if you email the address comments@tbpl.ca, I'll type it in the chat right now.
I just put it in the chat, you're good.
Oh, perfect. They can help you figure out how to set up a library card. Right now, we're just editing our website right now, so we don't have the online sign up right now, but hopefully we will in the next couple of months. So for this next section, we'll be talking about Simply Analytics. So this one, they may have it at other public libraries if you're out of town, so definitely check on your public library's website because it is a very popular like database. So this one, you obviously need your library card and PIN number to use it from home. The only thing to keep in mind is that it will time out after 20 minutes, and it can't have more than 5 users at once. So if you try to use it and it doesn't let you, it's probably because there's too many people within the Thunder Bay Public Library system on it at the same time. I've never run into the issue, and I've used it all the time with other patrons and during workshops. But you only have to wait 20 minutes, so it's not a huge deal. So this database is super helpful because you can look at information specifically about people as well as other businesses. So it's basically like an all-in-one of the database we've already gone over so far. And obviously it uses Census Canada. It has a primary source, and like I mentioned earlier, the 2016 one is the only one that's been published right now by StatsCan, so it's the only way they're pulling from. But then it also has other population and business data from these different providers that help them give better estimates and predictions for 2021. And it has super like high quality mapping and reporting functions, and they update the data in it every year. Give me 1 second. All right, sorry about that. So we'll get into another little tutorial about this. So if you go back to our list of databases from earlier, we'll go down to Simply Analytics. So you can create an account once you're in with your library card and PIN. If you want to save your work or work on multiple businesses at once, they're doing in school, but you also run a business, have 2 projects going. But we'll just go in as a guest today so you can see from the start what it'll look like for you, and then sign in. So it'll give you this little welcome tutorial here. So you can go through that. It's definitely helpful, but since I'm here, we'll go through it together. So to start you off with any project, you can search for 1 or more locations you would like to analyze. So if we type in Thunder Bay, you can see we have a bunch of different options. So it's like by largest to smallest in terms of population. So like the Thunder Bay's unorganized area is like a huge area with not a lot of people in it. That's why it's lowest on the list. So like the Thunder Bay, city of Thunder Bay is usually the census subdivision one. Census metro areas like Thunder Bay, Roslyn, like past Lakes, Italy, that kind of thing. And then we can add more than one. So someone said they were from Timmins. Again, we'll go with subdivision. Sorry. And then somebody else mentioned they were from Toronto, so we'll put that in as well. So we have our 3 locations chosen, and we'll hit next. And then you can select one of these starting variables for you. So I usually uncheck education. I just keep it as income and population. So we'll hit create project. So there's a lot going on here now that we have the map up and it started this view for us. So we'll just go through some of the menus first. So on the left-hand side, this is where all of the data is. It's separated into 3 different categories. So there's the location one, so you can add a new location if you forgot to add one to your initial setup, and the different data. So you know how we add the seed variable, we can add other variables here, and they've cataloged it nicely so it's easier to find. And then also businesses. So if you wanted to search for all of the Tim Hortons in a city, you can do it that way. Then along the top here, we have like this little, almost like a formula bar. So it tells you what's the data you're looking at. So we're looking at basic population 2021. You can drop down and change it to households by income for the current year. And then which location are we looking at? We're in Thunder Bay right now. So we can switch it to Timmins and look at Timmins as a city to look at the same data, or we can go over to Toronto, which you can tell is way, way bigger than the rest of them so far. And even all of Canada, if you wanted to, and I'll highlight it by the different regions there. So if we go back to looking at Toronto, it basically just gives us one color for the whole census subdivision. So if we want more detail by neighborhoods, we'll click, instead of by subdivision, we can go by census tract. So as you can see, that like changed the colors for the full map. You can see way more than you did before. And it'll do the same in Timmins too. I'm not sure how big Timmins is, so I don't know how well the colors will change. Yeah, that's not super helpful for Timmins, unfortunately, but in Thunder Bay, it does change. So you can kind of see the neighborhoods. So we're looking at household by income in Thunder Bay divided up by census tract. So this is usually about like half a neighborhood. They're almost like the voting city wards, but not quite the same. And then dissemination area is basically like by postal code. So it's kind of like about a block, a little more than a block, depending on how populated it is. So if you really want to get specific of where you're looking in town, that's how you do it. And you can even, it's like, if you know the city well enough, like this dark red, there's a bunch of heritage homes kind of behind Hill Street there. That's why that area is dark red, because you obviously need a significant amount of income to keep up one of those houses. So it's definitely interesting there. So not only can you look at like basic demographic information, it's super helpful to also look at consumer behavior. So if we go into our data folder, under consumer behavior, we can look at different like spending. So we can go into the food and beverage category. And then there's different like food purchase from restaurants, food meals, and there's a lot of information to support for. So in this section alone, we have 585 different reports we could look at for data collection. So if we're going back to coffee, so it'll be more specific. So these titles are basically so long because it's telling you which folder it is, kind of like on a computer. So this is like coffee and tea. So look at the average total expenditure on coffee and tea. So that is our new data we just turned, and it like changed our map. So you can see what areas people are more likely to spend money on coffee and tea. Usually when you're looking at this kind of data though through the map, it's kind of a bit of a correlation between people who have the most money and who don't. That's just how it always breaks down. People who have more money are more likely to get like coffee and tea and things like that. But it does become helpful if we're looking at one of the comparison tables. So this column on our right hand side here, this menu, is the different reports. So right now we're on the map report, but if we go over to the comparison table, it has our 4 locations that we started off with, and then the 2 locations we added, or the two data sets we started out with. So if we go back into consumer behavior, and then back into the food and beverage section, type in coffee again, click on the average. We can compare like the average amount people in Thunder Bay, Timmins, and Toronto spend on coffee compared to all of Canada. So this is really helpful to compare like one city with another, or even Thunder Bay to like the rest of Canada. I mean, this is like pretty close to the same. It's usually a bit different than that. That's pretty funny. So we can also add more locations here like before, so we can do a whole province. So this way you can like reorganize it too. So you're looking at Thunder Bay in Ontario, Canada. Move Timmins over, move Toronto over. And then, yeah, it's like, it's really interesting to look at the median income between Thunder Bay, Toronto, and Timmins. It's funny that Timmins ended up being the highest. That's super interesting. So it's a really great way to add like a lot of data between different locations all at once. Another super helpful report we can run is one of these ranking tables. So again, like at the top, there's a little formula. So we're looking at the top 100 census tracts in Thunder Bay by location name. So if we sort it, can sort largest to smallest. Now we're looking at the census tracts in Thunder Bay by the by the income. So you can do this again, like with that coffee example data we were looking at earlier, or population, what's the most densely populated one. Put largest to smallest, and then to figure out what this location actually is, you can click on it and then add it to favorites, or just copy this one, or click here and create map. And it'll map for you that area. there. Does anybody have any questions so far about Simply Analytics? All right, we'll keep going then. So there's more reports you can do if you click here and select New View. The next, like the other one I want to point out to you is this business table. So if we hit Create, and then click on this Business tab in our data folder, we can use this advanced search, and then name contains whatever. But what I like to do is usually put like local number of employees is greater than or equal to, and let's just say 50. Then we can add another condition. So we can do sales volume is greater than, less than, equal to. So let's put equal to $1 million, let's say. And then once you've entered all that information, you hit done. I might have been too specific with that. Yeah, so we'll change our search terms again. So we'll go back to the advanced search, number of employees greater than or equal to, or less than equal to 50, add a condition, and then sales volume is greater than, is less than or equal to, and then we'll put $1 million. So this is a good way to get an idea of the small business community in whatever location you are. These are all the businesses in town that have a number of employees that is greater to or equal to 50 employees, and a sales volume that is equal to $1 million or less than $1 million. So then, just like a regular Excel sheet, you can sort it by any of these different columns. It has the side scroll, so we can sort them by the sales volume for A to Z. So like a smaller, strongest, hit reverse. Now it's like largest to smallest. Now they're sorted. So this business here is making exactly $1 million, and then all the way to the bottom it gets less. And sometimes, here's a good example here. A lot of businesses will have the weird number Ontario Limited, so it'll have, that's the actual legal company name, and then they'll have the business name beside it. So it's not just whatever Ontario Limited, it's actually Northern Turf and Equipment. Does that make sense? All right. And then with any of these reports, you can export the data. So it's telling us this is too big. So telling us that will only be the limit if we export it now. So you can change the search to make it smaller, but you can even, like this quick report we did earlier, or sorry, the comparison table we did earlier, you can export that too. And it'll be like Excel, CSV, whichever one. So you can either save it to the computer you're using or email it to yourself, depending on where you are. You can even save like a map. So if you make up a map and you like it, you can export and save it here. And then it'll preview it for you. So you can like move this little box around and make it smaller, just to get the correct area of what you're looking for. And then continue it to layout, and I'll give you more printer settings so you can like print it or export to a computer as a file. Yeah, any questions before we go back to the presentation? All right, so we'll go back to the presentation. Oh, something came up in the chat. Amazing, yeah. All right, so some additional library resources we have here in Thunder Bay that could be super helpful to you is this business plans handbook. So this is a database through Gale Virtual Reference Library. So it's like from our database page again, after you go to our research page. So basically it allows you to look at any business's business plan as long as it's been submitted to the database. So these are like real existing businesses, not the fake coffee roasting company I've been using this whole time. So it gives you the opportunity to see examples of other business plans while you're creating your own, just so you can get, it's a great way to get ideas to help you make your own business plan. And then another super helpful database that we have here at Thunder Bay Public Library is the Grant Connect database. So this database has within it a huge amount of different funding opportunities within Canada. Most of them are either through the federal government or the provincial government, but there are some other ones that do like pop up as well. It's usually like research, anything from like research grants to like Young Canada Works programs, things like that. And we have more information about these resources at tvpl.ca/research/business and careers. And just to wrap things up and just give some final tips, just remember to give yourself like lots of time, or even like, say you set a deadline, can't meet it, give yourself like the grace to like move the deadline. And then also remember that your market, the people you're selling to, either they're individual people or even businesses, are multifaceted. Nobody just falls into one category. If you're looking at the demographic overview, no one's just a 30-year-old. There's other parts of their life that influence their spending habits. And then remember to be creative and flexible, see what you can do through things like social media. And then also decide where the good enough line lies. You can't go on, you could go on doing market research forever, but you actually want to run your business, right? So you have to find a stopping point somewhere. And it's not like a one and done thing either. Market research is one of those things that you could do it right now. You know, the pandemic ends, you might want to do it again, right? So just remember that it's like an ongoing process, and there's no one right answer to any of the market research you do. You're just helping guide your decisions for your business. And remember to ask for help. So at the library, we're always happy to help people. My email address is at the end of the presentation, so feel free to email me at any time. It's also in the About Us section. If you go to the staff tab, my contact information is in there as well. So always ask for help when you need it, or from any of the other organizations like the PARO Center or any of the organizations from the slide close to the beginning. Those businesses are specifically here to help you, and they want to see you succeed and thrive. So do feel free to ask for help from organizations. That's why we're here. And yeah, there's my contact information and where you can find the library online. And does anybody have any questions before the end of the presentation?
That was really good information, Amy. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, I know you're in Toronto, so I'm not exactly sure what they have, but definitely look for them. And even if you put in a request, I'm sure, like you're in Toronto, they got good kind of money there. I'm sure they can spend the money on extra databases, you know?
Yeah, I'm actually surrounded by a ton of different communities. So Toronto, Scarborough, and then of course all of Durham. I was going to ask you, who is typically is there a job title that we should ask for at the various libraries to get an understanding of, like, to get some help accessing the research searches? Is there a job title that typically takes care of that stuff?
Unfortunately, there isn't. But if you email, like if they have like a comments page or like get in contact with us or research help page, send an email to them or fill out whatever form, and they'll be happy to point you to the right person.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately,
right,
it's never that easy.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I just figured I would ask. And I guess the best time, I've always heard the best time to go into the library is during the week, because then you have during the day, because then you get the most senior librarians. Would that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. And it's also usually less busy. So especially with school coming back up, like the majority of like kids that are school age will be at the library like in the evening for programming or on PA days. And same with their parents and their like siblings, right? It's usually busiest in the evenings and on weekends, just because like that's when kids can get there the easiest with their parents, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Does anybody else have any questions? No? All right. Well, thank you very much for having me. Good luck with all of your market research endeavors, and feel free to reach out to me anytime if you have any questions about any of our services.
Well, thank you very much, Amy, for coming and presenting for us today. Thank you for a wonderful presentation. And thank you so much for everybody for coming. Again, if you would like a copy of today's recording, please feel free to email me at communications@paro.ca. I'd be more than happy to send you one. And a big round of applause for Amy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Amy. Very informative, really good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great afternoon,
I'm glad
everybody.
I popped in.
Yeah. Have a great afternoon. Take care.